most core American value, right? The freedom to determine your own life, to do what you want to do, to live a fulfilling life, and to control your own decisions, your own direction. Now, if you think about freedom, freedom is based on a conceptual metaphor for constraint. That is to say, when you're not free, someone is holding you down, and you feel the same kind of visceral emotion. Now, if you think about really what's happening is there is a battle for the fundamental value of freedom, and conservatives have tried very successfully in the last 30 years to shift the definition. So to conservatives, freedom is primarily negative. It is literally about someone violating the state, the government, violating someone's freedom to do something. Liberal elites doing it for their own reasons, right? Using government taxes or regulations to interfere with personal liberty. And so it's experienced as a taking. Literally, don't tread on me, right, as you see in the Tea Party movement. But it's an entirely negative kind of emotion, and if you listen to right-wing talk shows, which permeate this county, unfortunately, for the time being, you will hear this is all about some violation of freedom by the government or by the pointy-headed liberals, right, or the people in Milwaukee, or what have you. Now, progressive freedom, the version of freedom, it involves negative freedom, it involves discrimination, violations of people's rights, but it also involves something more positive and abstract. It involves the idea that people need certain conditions to be in place in order to have true freedom. They need access to a high-quality education, you need a stable and nutritious home life, a stable home life. That you need roads and bridges, you need, if you're trying to start a business, a trained workforce, and all the infrastructure you need to be able to get a higher education in a field that you want to pursue, where you can actually support a family and advance and live the American dream. So the problem is that that version of freedom is more abstract than simply a taking. It's not a visceral negative emotion. And also involves our common project together, our government, which they have undermined with cynicism. So we're literally, I think the progressive version of freedom is a more advanced version of freedom. I think negative freedom, like conservatives described it as the origin of freedom hundreds of years ago, but we've moved to a different view, that you need positive conditions to exist, to really live a fulfilling life and have the freedom to do so in a modern society. But we need to, this where it gets back to emotion. Mike talked about not being emotional. I think we need, and that's a good teacher kind of approach. I think we need to be emotional, but in a strategic way, in which we make people emotional in a way that leads them towards something that allows them to reason better. But sometimes you need to be emotional to be reasonable. But what we need to do, say, on freedom, and I'll give a healthcare example, is to invest positive freedom with the same kind of moral emotion that conservative kind of taking away is able to trigger. And so, for example, in healthcare reform, as they like to call it, Obamacare, it's really a broad set of public structures that set up a situation where everyone can get affordable health care no matter what, or at least most people, but not all the way, but it's a huge advance forward. But if you describe all the elements of it in policy terms, I mean, my God, health policy turns off average legislators, let alone the general public, and it confuses and scares them, right? So you need to get down to fundamentals. So if you think about it, one of the primary things the Affordable Care Act does is it makes sure people who have had cancer or other serious conditions can still buy health care at the same rate as everyone else. And when you deny someone coverage or charge them a rate they can't afford just because they've had cancer, for example, that is a taking away of fundamental freedom. And the reason people know the word pre-existing condition is not because it's a powerful word. It's an Orwellian word devised by insurance companies to deny what it was, denying care to sick people. But everyone knows it because we know it's powerful. In fact, I think the fact that people know it is proof that this is something really, really fundamental and core. And so what needs to happen is we need to say you need to have our democracy guarantee everyone should have somewhere to go to affordable health care no matter what, in order to prevent people from being thrown off their coverage, denied coverage when they get sick. In other words, a negative taking away emotion, but then it's paired with a positive vision of what we need to do as a society. And by the way, here's one of the problems with communication. We like originality. The research is really, really strong that the human mind is based on repetition, and the unconscious part of the human mind it responds to repetition. So the talk radio repetition, the Fox News repetition, it actually changes the way people think. So we need to nail these comparisons down. These are, like I just example I just gave, and repeat them in a unified, aligned way over and over and over again, which requires tremendous alignment between organizations like Citizen Action and all the grassroots activists across the state. And so, not only do we like to work with you, we need you. If we just say it, no one else does, and no politician says it, it doesn't change